Hello everyone and welcome to Talk of the Games match preview of Olympiacos against West Ham United match day 3 of the Europa League. Both sides got off to different starts so far in their first two games. We'll get on to that in just a second. Before we do, Gonzo, what's your thoughts on Olympiacos, please?
Well, in a spot of bother, Gio, up top of the league, Olympiacos, it should be said. They're doing really, really well. And I would imagine they're looking probably pretty good to win the league. However, they might be facing some sanctions of some description. They had a bit of I was going to say a fiery encounter with I think it was Panathinaikos at the weekend, and it was very, very fiery indeed. Actually, one of the Panathinaikos players got struck by a firework or a firecracker. I don't really know the difference between the two. I don't know which one. You'd probably want to get hit by a firecracker rather than a rocket, so to speak. But players didn't come back out, and the match was abandoned. But it shouldn't be totally surprising. They do love a pyrotechnic over there, to be fair. It's a very, very, what can I say, intimidating atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, they like lots of fireworks, a really big, grand occasion, and that's a really big sort of important fixture over there in Greece. But yeah, as a team, they're doing very, very well.
Yeah, the Derby of Eternals, I think it's called. And I don't think the player got struck by it. I think it landed next to him. It was a firecracker, and it landed next to him. But he went down injured because he lost hearing in that ear. The doctor had a look at him. He said he couldn't stand up, and as a result, the game was abandoned. And it might actually go to court to determine the outcome of the game rather than it being replayed. So, so that game was meant to be at the weekend, as Gonzo said. That's been postponed, but a good start to their season so far. Played 7 games, got 19 points in the league, only conceding 2 goals in the 7 games as well. However, not so good in the Europa League. They got beat by Freiburg, and then they drew against TSC, who obviously we've beaten both of those sides. But so far this season, they played 13 games, won 9, drew 3 and lost 1, which was obviously against Freiburg. Plenty of players you've heard of, though, Gonzo.
I have. So they got one of my old favourites in there, haven't they? So they got Daniel Podence, who I really like, really, really good player. It's funny, I don't often look when we play these teams. I expect I'm not going to know any of the players. I've heard of Omar Richards, of course, who I'm sure everybody else has. They've got a really good defender actually, who we were linked with. Aretsos is very, very good defender as well. And just looking at the list as well, they've certainly got a few here as well. For Tunis is known to me as well. Yeah, some pretty damn knowledgeable players there, I've got to say, which I don't expecting to know any of them. But yeah, Retsos, good defender actually.
Another couple of players you probably heard of at home, and then we'll get on to a few that you probably also heard of for an obvious reason. And you've got Jovetic, who used to play Manchester City striker, of course. He's over at Olympiacos, as well as Abora, who used to play for Leicester City. Had a couple of seasons there after joining from Sevilla. But the ones that you've also maybe heard of, as Gonzo said, you've got Omar Richard, Bianconi, you've got Scarpol, you've also got Carvalho. The reason you might have heard of all them, because they're all from Nottingham Forest. Obviously, the owner of Olympiacos is the owner of Nottingham Forest as well. So there's a link between the clubs, and as Gonzo said, Daniel Podence, who used to play for Wolves. So a few household names when it comes to the Premier League. So for this one, we might actually be able to pronounce some of the names on the build-up show on Thursday. I'm looking forward to it, actually. But anything you'd like to add about Olympiacos before we move on to
I think I sort of suspect it might be more difficult than maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, we had Freiburg down as the toughest game on paper, which I think was maybe influenced by the fact they beat Olympiacos on match day 1. So while we won, Freiburg went to Olympiacos and won. And I think that actually maybe swayed us a little bit. But when you are looking at Olympiacos statistically, you do get a little bit, oh, hang on a minute, this could
be...
And
the players, they've got some good players. I think they're a good team, actually. I think they're highly likely to be a good team. I'm not entirely sure we'll find it easy, particularly going off the back of a sort of a humiliating defeat to Aston Villa.
And it's probably a must-win game for them, actually. 1 point after 2 games in the group stage. If they want to get through, then, well, they're going to need to get 3 points from this one, aren't they? Should they fail to win this one, 2 points maximum after 3 games, I think you're heading out or down.
Yeah, well, Conference League, no shame in that, certainly. But, they're...
maybe that's the plan.
I wouldn't blame. Honestly, I would not blame a club for doing it. Actually, it's a winnable competition, isn't it? As well as we know, we can attest to that. But yeah, it is a big. I do think it's a big and important game for them. I do think they're going to be up for it. I do think their fans are going to be raucous, and I think it's going to be a really, really interesting. I'm not sure we'll find it too easy. I can't really. I know we'll do the prediction at the end, but I can't see us coming away with some emphatic big victory against them.
No, I think West Ham have been warned to sort of warn their players, if you like. There might be lasers and stuff like that being shone in their eyes, because when Greece played during the international break, the Greek fans were shining lasers at the opposition players to try and put them off and whatnot. So it's going to be a testing environment, I think, for us. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on. But how important is this game for you? We'll get onto your team in a minute, but how important is it? Given that we've won 2, have we got a little bit of breathing room there, or do we need to try and make it 3 out of 3, and then we can maybe relax for the final 3?
Well, I think Moyes will do that. For me, I think it's important because Moyes needs to find answers to some questions in the team which are more pertinent domestically, that were issues that a lot of us might have thought were there anyway, but it's thrown them up in the Aston Villa game. And rather than waiting until Everton, he might well be wise to try and find some solutions now. So I think it's important in terms of 3 points in the group, but I do think it's now West Ham had a good start to the season, an excellent start to the season, and it became a good start, and now it's become a sort of average start to the season. It's now time to, I think, switch things around and sort of go again. So I think there's time for some tinkering here ahead of Everton.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because the European game does provide a bit of an advantage. Sometimes there's obviously disadvantages, i.e. we play a game, Everton do not, quite obvious ones. We're travelling on Thursday, Everton not. But there is also some advantages, which is we can put that defeat to Aston Villa behind us should we win on Thursday. It gives Moyes an opportunity to try 1 or 2 things while retaining a really strong starting 11. He can try 1 or 2 things, which again is another advantage. It's I was always say glorified training session. It's not. It's better than that. So it's a really tough competitive game where you can put players in and see, well, let's see what you've got, and use that going into the Everton game should he be satisfied with what he's seen. So it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm genuinely intrigued as to what David Moyes is going to do. I'm also intrigued as to what you're going to do. And, well, I know what I would like to see, so I'm not intrigued by that, but perhaps you are. Team news for West Ham is that we don't really have any. Everybody is available. Obviously, Cornet was missing from the squad on Sunday, but we believe that was just a selection choice by David Moyes rather than anything untoward. Ben Johnson and Creswell have been back in training last week, so they're available for selection as well, just that they weren't selected by David Moyes at the weekend. Moyes played down his press conference before the Aston Villa game that maybe there's a little bit of work to be done before they're fit and ready, so we'll wait and see. But all in all, Moyes is in a good position. The team's in a good shape heading into this one, so plenty of players to choose from. Now, just again, clarity. What's the team I and Gonzo want to see starting up? What we think Moyes will do. We'll cover that on Thursday. Get your predictions in on a certain app. We'll tell you about that on Thursday. Well done. You've got 11 out of 11 for the Aston Villa game. I did. Gonzo got 10. I got 11 though. But we'll see. This one's trickier. Right, Gonzo, what you want to see? Start with your keeper. What are you going for?
We'll stick Fabianski a goal. Be nice for Areola to have a break after that, really. I'm actually going to put Ben Johnson right back for this one because I feel he's going to play against Everton. Although he'll play against Everton at left back, I think a bit of match sharpness would not go amiss. Aside from that, I'm going to play Mavropanos, Nyfegerd, and Emerson as the rest of the back four.
Yeah, I agree with Emerson. For context, Emerson's suspended against Everton, so he can't play on Sundays. So I'm putting Emerson in as well. I've gone with Soufal at right back because I'm trying to keep it as strong as possible. You make a good case for Ben Johnson in regards to keeping an eye on the Everton one. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do at left back. I'm not sure Johnson is really someone that Moyes considers as a...
If he doesn't, Gio, sorry to say that, I'm assuming that he would. If it's actually going to be Kehrer that he plays at left back, I would rather he plays Kehrer. You know what I mean? In this case, I just match sharpness. I don't want to drop someone in there who hasn't played for 5 games. Do you know what I mean?
My centre backs, I've gone with Mavropanos for obvious reasons. He was motivated back in the Bundesliga, now he'll be motivated back in his home country as well. Yeah. Also, Theo Kehrer. Again, for the reasons I've said in other videos, I think Kehler's a fantastic player. He's too good to be 5th choice centre back at West Ham, and I think the shirt's up for grabs now in this West Ham starting 11. maybe not so much a couple of weeks. Going into the Newcastle one, it's sort of picked itself a little bit. But now I feel going into the Everton game, I think there's maybe one or two shirts. I actually think there's an argument that one of the centre-backs should be benched
For sure.
for the Everton game.
Yeah.
We're conceding too many goals. So this put Mavropanos and Kedar in there. See how they get on. If we keep a clean sheet and them two perform really well at centre back, maybe we try that as a centre back partnership against Everton. But I would certainly start them. So Soufal, Mavropanos, Kedar, and Emerson for me. Moving into midfield, what would you like to see?
Ward-Prowse and Alvarez would start in the middle. I think, again, you've got to go as strong as you possibly can. I wouldn't anticipate they'd be as bad as they were against Aston Villa. I'm thinking... I'm actually tempted here to play Kudus as an attacking midfielder. And then I would actually be giving Paquetá. I'll be bringing him, but I'll be putting him on the bench for the start of this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse, and Kudus. I think we need to try something, and this is something that could be carried on into the Everton game as well. Should they perform well as a partnership, as a three in there? Should we look solid enough in midfield? Then we can use that against Everton. And, Kudus has got to be the first name in the team sheet. It's not a question of does Kudus start. I think everybody wants to see him start. And do you know what? I think David Moyes will want to see him start as well. It's just a case of where do you play him? Are you going to put him on the right? Are you going to put him in the number 10? Are you going to play him as a striker? Are you going to put him on the left? I don't know, but me and you're definitely going for the same one in this one, right in the middle of the pitch. Let him influence the game. He's got that shot on him. If anyone's going to score from outside the box, it's probably him, if not be Bowen or Ward-Prowse from a set piece. So get Kudus in there and let's see what they've got. And again, Alvarez and Ward-Prowse picks themselves. We don't have replacements for either of them, so they pick themselves. Now, your left side is going to be interesting then, because can we start with that? Because you just said you're not going to play Paquetá.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give Benrahma a go in this game. Actually, see if we can get something out of him, because I feel his West Ham career is sort of ebbing and slipping away. I think we need to start looking at other options for Paquetá there on that side as well, because I sort of have a feeling without preempting my Everton team too much, but I have a suspicion that there's going to be some places up for grabs in that one, and Bowen is going to be playing centre forward in that game. So I think things are going to be shuffled around. So I think for the moment, I'd like to see just work out our options on the left-hand side. And he's a good player, Benrahma. He really is. He's a good player in bad form, and he can come out of that bad form, and he's got some serious pedigree and credit in the bank in Europe. He really has. So yeah, I'd start with him on the left.
I agree with what you said, that he's a good player in bad form, but I disagree when you said he can get out of the bad form. I'm not sure he can. I have to be honest with you. I feel like I've lost faith in Benrahma a bit. When he's coming on as a sub, I don't get too excited. I'm like, here we go, game changers coming on the pitch. I don't feel like that. And I thought it was quite damning. He didn't come on the pitch against Aston Villa, whereas previously he was coming on at the same time as Kudus, and we were shuffling the deck in the last couple of games, but he didn't get onto the pitch. So maybe there is a case to start him. Can I just ask you a question then? If you're looking at Everton, if this is what David Moyes is going to do, if David Moyes is going to, for whatever reason, play Kudus on the left, move Paquetá in the middle, stick Bowen on the right and Antonio up front, would you then play Kudus on the left for this one?
Well, I don't think he is going to do that.
No, but if he was, that's what I'm saying. Hypothetically, if that's what Moyes was intending on doing, would you put him in this role?
I probably would for experience, but I expect Kudus to play on the right against Everton, to start on the right.
So why are you playing him in number 10 on this one?
Because we need to get through, and there's other areas of the pitch where we need to find out about players, which you're going to find out in a second. That's why the fullback I feel is important, because whoever's going to play in place of Emerson, there's a lot of finding out for this one. I don't think that's important. As one thing I know is that Kudus can play on the right, and Moyes knows it as well. So actually, I think it's really important we find out whether he can play central when we sort out the left-hand side as well, and the centre-forward position.
Well, I think we know he can play central, though, Kudus. I think we know that as well. He can.
Well, I think we know it. I want Moyes to know it. Yeah.
I've got a feeling our last two players are the same. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe you're going to want to see Bowen up front as a little trial. Where are you putting Jared Bowen for this one?
On the right. And then I'll tell you now, I'm going to play Mubama up front.
Yeah, me too. I completely agree.
Yeah. Needs to be done, mate. It absolutely needs to be done. Look, Moyes has got to find a different way now. And I'm not suggesting throwing the baby out of the bathwater, but there was a time, I mentioned it in one of the videos, Gio, under Pellegrini, you were really enthusiastic about Mikel Antonio as a substitute, how good and how impactful he could be as a substitute. I think it may well be time, I don't know, it's a long time ago now, of course, but it may well be time to see that again. And we need to find out what Mubama can do. I feel that Moyes' job, if we assume that really, even if we don't finish top, we're probably going to qualify from this group. I think what we need to find out now, whether Mubama is a viable substitute for West Ham. That's what I'm looking at. And we're only going to find that out by giving him game time, letting him get his confidence up and seeing how he plays with players like Jarrod Bowen, with players like James Ward-Prowse and like Mohamed Kudus. That's what we need to see. He has to get it. Antonio, it's really important after that performance against Aston Villa that Antonio is not rewarded with a start. He's got to be benched.
Well, actually, I actually think if you start Antonio for this game, I actually think he might look at it as a punishment because traditionally he's rested in European games and he plays the Premier League. So I actually think if Moyes was to start him again, on Thursday, well, put it this way, the team lineup comes out on Thursday and Antonio's starting. Would that not make you go, well, he's not starting against Everton? Because I would certainly think here's an indicator that he's getting his bum smacked.
Very, very true. But an even bigger punishment would be him not starting against Olympiacos or Everton, and that's what it may happen. That may happen.
Not sure. I would leave him. I would just leave him in London because we have to. We have to look after him. We've managed Antonio really well for the last couple of seasons. He doesn't get injured anymore. He's not the injury-prone things. Old news. Because we've managed him well, because Moyes last season didn't really use him much during the group stages. He looked after him. So, listen, he had a poor performance against Villa. That doesn't mean we shouldn't continue looking after him. We should still do that, but just use him accordingly in the Premier League, really. So, for what it's worth, I've got Paqueta on the left for actually the reasons regarding Mubama, which is I want him to have the best chance to succeed. And if he's got Bowen and Paqueta either side and Kudus behind him and Ward-Prowse as well, he's going to get chances. And when you see Paqueta trying those passes against Aston Villa, they weren't working, but actually, let's give Mubama those chances. Let's get him running onto those balls as well. So, Mubama up front. And I think Bowen would benefit from it. And do you know something? I think Paqueta would as well, because we've seen Mubama with the under-18s and under-21s where he doesn't mind going out on the wing and tracking back. If if Bowen for whatever reason gets caught centrally, Mubama will get out and run back into the right wing back role until they can swap back. So having that that front three being fluent when they need to be, I think would be a good thing as well. So yes, start Mubama, says Gio and Gonzo. And some of you, I'd imagine, you can let us know what team you want to see in the comments below. Now, before I ask Gonzo if he's confident, just one point in direction of the Hammers Chat Patreon. If you wish to support this channel as a result of our Patreon and people that sign up to Patreon, we try and produce one video every single day on this channel and the Hammers Chat Forum channel as well. If you took Patreon away, we wouldn't be able to do that many videos. Simple as that. So you can head over there, patreon.com/HammersChat. Links in description or the pinned comments if you wish to support us. The supporter tier costs £3.60 per month, so it's 90p per week. You get additional video content. You enter into our giveaways. You get online discount at our online store. And you get to support us doing this video. Simple as that. So thank you very much to anyone that does join up. Massively appreciated. Helps a lot. Gonzo, are you confident?
Reasonably, but I don't think it's a dead cert. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's hard, maybe, to lift the players after a performance like we had against Aston Villa. I think, look, you mentioned Patreon. We just don't have Patreon player ratings. There you go, little cheeky plug there. And we, a lot of us did note, both myself, yourself, and the patrons, that the players sort of gave up towards the end, and that's a mindset thing. And it's not, it might have just been a frustration with a game. That requires motivation once that's happening. So it's going to be a bit of a turnaround. There's no doubt about it. The players would have turned up for training on Monday. a little bit downbeat, and they'll need lifting after that, because that was an absolute humbling. They would have felt it on the pitch that they were outclassed by the better team, and if they weren't sure about that, David Moyes let them know in the press conference by praising Aston Villa so highly and saying how much more work West Ham had to do. Now again, that might have been him trying to say pull your socks up and do better, but it's hard to think we're going into this game buzzing. It's not the end of the world, far from it, but it's hard to be confident that we go over there and get a really emphatic win.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think Olympiacos is a difficult one to judge because I'm not seeing Olympiacos play. Right? I'm not going to pretend I watched them. I've not watched them. I couldn't tell you the last time I watched an Olympiacos game. The last time I watched them play, probably none of these players played for them. I don't even know the name of the manager, right? Okay, so I know nothing about them. So I can only go by the stats, if you want. And when you look at the league form, it frightens you a little bit. Like I said, they've only conceded 2 goals and saying, hang on a minute, whoa, hang on. But I'd imagine, I wouldn't be surprised if I was to go back to last season and season before, they're churning out results like that in the Greek league on a regular occasion. They're a big side in that league. However, you look at the Europa League form, which is 1 point from 2 games, and they drew with TSC, who, let's be honest with you, crap. They're really bad, and they only drew that game, and they got beat by Freiburg, who again, they were all right, but they weren't as good as I was expecting.
No.
So I look at that form and I get encouraged by it. In regards to motivation, as you discussed, well, actually, we both want to see changes. Let's say 5 changes we're making to the starting 11 from Sunday. Well, those 5 players should be bloody motivated. It's an easy pep talk to Kerr, Mavropanos, Kudus. It's easy. You want to start against Everton? Do it. There you go. Go do it on Thursday.
They wouldn't believe that. They would not
Probably
believe
not.
that.
So, yeah, of course, Gaffer. You told us that when we played Freiburg and we won, and look what happened, eh? But it's an easy win for Moyes. I think it's a difficult game, but should we win this one, I say pressure's off. We've still got to pick up points somewhere else in the other 3 games in the Europa League. But I'll be honest with you, I'm expecting that TSC game to be almost a given that we get 3 points there. And yes, it's hard again, but I don't really care. They're crap. They're terrible. It's the equivalent of when it's international football and France plays San Marino. It's a given that France will get 6 points on both fixtures. It just is. It just happens. So we should be winning this group. I think a draw is probably adequate for us in this game, given that we beat Freiburg. I think a draw will give us 7 points after 3 games, keep us top the group heading into the reverse fixtures. The next game after this is Olympiacos at home. So then, in theory, hopefully we'll go on to win that one, and that'll give us 10 points after 4 and probably have us qualified out of the group. So I think we're in a good position going into this one. We get a draw from this one. We remain in a good position coming out the back of it. In a weird way, I'm more interested into what Moyes is going to do than the result. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's he going to do at centre back? What's he going to do with Kudus? What's he going to do up front? Kind of thing. There's a lot of questions actually that's going to get answered on Thursday night, and that might determine my optimism for the Everton game going forward. So, yeah, tough game. Optimistic, but confident. Maybe not. But that's the fear of the unknown. Gonzo, any final words from yourself, please, and your all-important score prediction?
Yeah, as ever, I think, managing injuries is going to be important here. We don't want to pick up anything. It's something we've done remarkably well this season, by and large. It's quite obvious from that regard that Kurt Zouma is going to be rested for this game. There's just no way. So I'm amazed how... I mean, we always discussed how that he is broken, but it's amazing how much that has changed. There were still points last season where you might have felt he could have played 2 games in a week. It's now completely impossible. So I think it's sort of, so he has to be rested. Aside from that, I mean, I'm not that bothered about wrapping players in cotton wool. It's just a case of hoping they turn out okay, and then Moyes managing their minutes. So whether that's they start the game and then he substitutes them early, or they start on the bench and he brings them on as rescuers or something like that. I want to see a couple of 3 or 4 young players maybe there. So if we are sort of comfortable in the game, he can bring them on as well, which should again help the balance of the squad. But there's other players, senior players need minutes, mate. If he's going to use them, if he's going to use Ben Johnson, he's going to need minutes. If he's going to use Thilo Kehrer, he's going to need minutes. So this sort of stuff is important. I really do think it's key. Though he's got to manage morale as well. And I think he's got a job on his hands here, because I do think that maybe Danny Ings and Mubama's morale may well hang in the balance here. I don't want him to start Ings. I'm not saying that, but he needs to do something. He can't keep having. At some point, he might need to call on those players. He might need them, so he's going to need to do something there as well. I suspect we'll get a narrow win. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 win for this one.
Yeah, it's sad, really, isn't it? Because it's not serious. It's literally just a Scottish West Ham fan with a bit of paper and a pen. That's all it is. I write down the team I'd like to see, but it is quite sad when I'm writing it down. I don't even consider Fornals, Benrahma, Kearney, Ings. This is 4 really good footballers on decent wages at the club, and they don't really feel like viable options anymore. Aaron Cresswell, another one. I'm a big fan of Aaron Cresswell, but considering what's happened to him in this season, it's sort of like, we're away to play Everton at the weekend, and you've not once mentioned, well, we're going to play Cresswell, put him in for this one. You're talking about Ben Johnson or Kerr out of position at left back ahead of Aaron Cresswell, and it's just sad that. Well, that's 5 senior players there that are like. I mean,
he won't use them, though. He won't use them.
Benrahma he'll use, but Fornals, Kearney, he'll use Ings, unfortunately. Cresswell he won't use. And it's a bit like. It's not good. £500,000 a week or something we're probably spending on those 5 players, and we can't even include them in a heavily rotated side. Yeah. In a group state.
Not to start anyway.
No. So it's a bit the bigger picture is maybe a bit gloomier. But listen, 2 strong starting 11s from ourselves. I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to say 1-1 because we do what we want to see when it comes to prediction, you've almost got to do like a predict what Moyes is going to do, and I don't think we're too far off. By the way, I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if I've got 10 out of my 11 right. The problem is the one I've got wrong will be Mubama, and I think.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I don't think we'll see Ings. I think we'll see Bowen up front, Kudus on the right, and probably Souček start with Ward-Prowse and Alvarez. I think that's what we'll see. But we'll cover that on Thursday morning. Anyway, that's it from us. Give us the team you want to see in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this preview, please do drop a like on. It helps the channel out. Subscribe to Hammers Chat. If you fancy supporting the channel over on Patreon from £3.60 per month, patreon.com/Hammers Chat. Links in description, links in pinned comments. And myself and Gonzo, well, if you're on Patreon and you're a mild addict or an addict, we'll catch you Thursday morning for the breakfast show. Until then, we'll see you soon.